The following podcast was recorded before the severity of Kevin Durant's injury was known. The fallout of his injury will be discussed in great detail on Wednesday's show. Enjoy this one, where we talk about the finals game and the Utah Jazz.
The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
Not over yet! The NBA season. Not over yet. Neil, that was, I don't know, it wasn't exactly how I thought game, what the hell was that, 5? That wasn't exactly how I thought it was going to go, but we rumble forth. What did you think? That was, it was exciting, if poorly officiated.
It was definitely exciting. I felt like it wasn't expected. It didn't go how I expected either. I did not expect Golden State to shoot that well. So kudos to them for shooting that well from the outside, knocking out all those threes. I think that was the difference. And then, unfortunately, the Durant injury was.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings about that.
What do we know at this point? It didn't look like he's playing anymore in these in the playoffs. But then, what the hell do I know? I'm not a doctor. What? Crap! I'm trying to think.
But you almost were a doctor.
That's actually true. That's actually true. I got into medical school before deciding not to go. So by that account, if you were writing the letters MD after my name, I got about as far as putting the pen on the paper to start writing the letter M, and then I was like, nah, I'm going to go into the lucrative field of sports broadcasting. And here I am, wealthy as all hell. Just wait until you see my fancy, like $300 laptop chugging along here in full capacity. I am at Dan Besbris, by the way. He's at Ball with Neil. Neil Rochlani is his name. This is Fantasy NBA Today. And Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee and a hoop ball presentation. Did not need coffee today to get myself riled up for the NBA Finals. We're also talking Utah Jazz later on in today's show. That's our post-mortem for this Tuesday edition. We got the word that Durant... Okay, so normally, by the way, Neil and I talk about sports betting, but let's see. We don't have a line for that Thursday game yet. I think they're waiting, I'm sure, on whether Kevon Looney and Kevin Durant might actually see the floor. I don't know that either of them will, but who the hell knows? Normally talk sports betting. We kind of have to do it in hindsight. Neil, you and I were texting on Monday evening, and I texted you after we were talking about whether or not Durant was in, and we learned that he was. I said bet the farm on Toronto, and then he got hurt in the second quarter, and everybody's like, well, who actually got lucky with that injury? And my answer is I don't really know, because he was making them better, but adrenaline was doing part of it. It was likely to run out. There was a massive line swing, and then when all was said and done, the line was spot on. It ended Warriors by 1. They won the game by 1.
I know, crazy, right? Vegas is just...
They got power rankings, man. They got power rankings.
They know how to price these things. But Durant, obviously he started off amazing, shooting the ball incredibly well as he always does. But yeah, I thought that would come down a little bit. Maybe he'd get fatigued. He wouldn't be able to play all that. He wouldn't be that as good in the second half as he was going to be in the beginning. But the Warriors shooting 20 of 42 from 3. I think that was the difference. Yeah,
they finally got the big guys finally got the ball to drop at the same time. 5 for Steph, 7 for Clay.
Exactly. And I saw Kevin Durant in a walking boot, so I imagine he's done. It looked like he was grabbing his Achilles, too, in addition to his lower leg. So
listen, let's be honest here. Gil was right. It's been the Achilles the whole time, right? None of this calf baloney. My calf strained my foot. I had a calf strain in high school. I walked funny for about 5 days. They called me Old Man Besbris. I haven't been able to shake that moniker, and so I kind of leaned into it. This is like one of the premier athletes in the universe. If this was a calf strain, he'd be playing and he'd be fine. This is something more. He aggravated it. He's done. So there were all these discussions about whether or not the Warriors are better without Kevin Durant, and maybe against a team like the Blazers, maybe it was easier for them. They need him in this series, I thought. They hung on by a thread because Steph and Clay played well, and Dre was solid. But just Durant's length alone completely changed the way they looked on the basketball court the first quarter and a half. Just being able to reach out and grab a couple rebounds and deflect a couple of shots and just get in the way of Pascal Siakam so we didn't have to see Jonas Jerebko in that ball game. It's a massive difference. It's a huge loss for him being out, and I think I'd still just keep betting Toronto every game because even a push is fine in this one.
Oh, yeah. I think and plus the spray in the floor, which makes everything so much, their offense runs so much. I mean, I don't know if it makes it run better, but certainly they get better shots when he's out there.
Yeah,
so,
well, he can handle. He's a 7-foot power forward who can handle the basketball. That's pretty good when you're trying to run a break.
Yeah, and he can just shoot over anyone at any time.
It's
amazing.
Huge. Yeah, the rest of those guys can't. They've got to get that quick release shot off, and then guys like Iguodala, you could not pay that dude enough to take a shot. How badly did he not want to shoot the basketball?
Well, when you watch him shoot, you understand why. He's just struggling out there. He does not look good.
For goodness sake, though, you got to just, all he's doing these days, I'm sure, between ball games is practicing three-pointers. Just let one fly, man. He wasn't terrible. He was a 33%er during the regular season. Just fire, man.
Yeah, he's got no confidence right now.
None. Zippo. And they need him to shoot because he's been abandoned at the defensive end. There wasn't anybody within 15 feet of him when he had the basketball.
I know. But he did have that one shot, right? Wasn't that game 2 where he...
Yeah, so do it again. Do it again, Andre. What are you doing, you dope? I'm actually kind of rooting for the Raptors, but just in terms of schematics, I've got to think that at some point Steve Kerr's just like, Andre, let me talk to you for a minute. And Andre's like, yeah, what's up, coach? And he's like, you remember how to shoot? And Andre's like, nah. So at some point in the next 7 days before game 6, they're going to tell him he has to shoot because Kevin Durant is now out. There's no, Dre shot. They left Draymond, so he took some shots and he made a couple of 3 balls. They were important just to force them to come out and get anywhere near the dude. You have to respect the guy.
Yeah, that's why I like Toronto in game 6.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
I do too. They're probably going to be catching 5. They're probably going to be catching 5 points.
They're probably going to be catching. Yeah, I was going to say I was thinking it might be half a dozen, but we'll see. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's going to be 5.
Toronto shot 27 free throws in this game. Warriors took 14. I as again, someone who's kind of rooting for Toronto, I still felt like I thought the Raptors got a lot of calls in that game, and still lost. So by that account, it was sort of like a double whammy. They lost a home game. They lost one where they got the benefit of the whistle. But they still, to me, over the course of the series, Toronto looks like the better team, don't they?
They do. Well, without Durant, yes.
Oh,
sure.
Yeah,
without Durant.
Warriors did look better when Durant was out there.
They looked like the old Warriors, didn't they?
They moved the ball.
You can't. They scored I remember at one point it was midway through the second quarter, they had almost, was it 40-some points in the first 15 minutes? It was crazy. Yeah, it was just
Yeah, well, Durant was doing... I think this Durant on one leg thing was actually kind of good because he wasn't trying to go ISO. He was just playing in their offense, and it was like, oh, damn. The Warriors just got a really good ball-moving power forward who's awesome at the offensive end and has the wingspan of a prehistoric flying beast. But yeah, he's now out again. So I don't know how they reconcile that. There sort of aren't enough options unless, should I just... Okay, so I'm going to, So Quinn Cook, Jordan Bell was awful in his 4 minutes in this game. Kevon Looney was clearly playing through a thing, and then he left the ball game. They'd have nobody else that can help them. It's got to be Iguodala. He has to shoot the basketball as much as he doesn't want to. Just do it, man. Marc Gasol, I don't think he plays this well again in Game 6, so that's probably a knock. Danny Green probably plays a little bit better. Kawhi had a little bit of a tough shooting night. They committed some turnovers. Warriors had more. I think I'm rolling Raptors. I think even if they lose Game 6, they lose a close one. So keep betting the farm, Neil. You said you bet the garage, so you pushed. You got your garage back.
Well, you said bet the house. Actually.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's right.
I said not the house, but the garage.
Yeah. A push, man. Kissing cousins. Yeah. You didn't get your garage plus another garage. You just got your own one back.
Exactly. I didn't give away anything. I'm looking at the opening line. I'm seeing 3.5.
Wow. That is way lower than I thought. Man, maybe I'll rethink my house.
Yeah, exactly.
That's real low. I mean, I guess by all accounts, I am glad the season continues, right? I mean, this maybe the Warriors get the whistle in Game 6. We might see this thing go 7. I just sort of don't think so. With the Warriors are so clobbered at this point. Iguodala on one leg, Clay on one leg, Durant out, Looney out, Boogie on one leg, if one leg at this point. They're crushed, man. Raptors are healthy. The healthy team usually ends up winning in the finals.
Yeah, and it's just Toronto had this game for the taking. I don't know if I didn't see a lot. I missed some of this game, so I didn't see how many of those 3-pointers were wide open looks or how many were just like crazy knockdown 3-pointers.
For the Dubs? For the Warriors?
Yeah.
They had a lot of pretty good looks in this game. I mean, Steph, he and Clay kind of have a different barometer by what's considered open versus wide open.
Right, exactly.
Right? Like Draymond Green has this. The greatest meme on the internet is still the one where the guy photoshopped a backpack onto Draymond Green. Have you seen that one?
No, I have not.
It's so great. Please, when we finish our podcast, you and then everybody listening, please Google Draymond Green shoots like he's wearing a backpack. And it's so freaking funny. Someone just flashed a backpack onto him during a couple minutes of Warriors basketball, and it really does look like he looks like a high schooler with a backpack on as he loads up. You know how he gets real low and kind of shoots from out in front of his body a little bit?
Oh, yeah, he has a very odd 3-point shot.
It's awesome. Please look it up. You'll laugh hysterically like I did. I can almost promise it. I don't think I can oversell how good this was enough. And I'm usually a man who likes to set the bar low so that things can fly over it. I'm setting the bar very high for this meme, and I think you're still going to be happy when you watch it. So I don't even remember what I was talking about. Oh, right. He needs to be he needs 10 feet of space to get a shot off, and Clay and Steph need like a couple of inches. So
yeah,
I guess to answer your question, there were shots that these guys make regularly. It was nothing crazy. It wasn't like they were unguarded, but the Draymond Green threes, he was completely unguarded. So that's your point of reference there. Warriors just they took them, they made them. Raptors did not. But then again, if the free throw thing was closer, Warriors would have beat the hell out of them. So I there's a lot of things that kind of could have gone both ways in that one, and we get more basketball, which is fine. We need something to continue to bridge the gap to NBA draft night, which is coming up in like 11, 12 days or something like that. Oh my goodness. Neil, sorry, I was going to leap on to the next thing. Do you have anything more on the finals? I apologize. I've grabbed the wheel to this ship, and I was just yanking us out to sea.
I have one kind of curious thought, which is probably going to sound crazy.
Lay it on me, man. What you got?
We always talk about home court advantage, but I feel like the home team has been
miserable.
Feeling more. I know they're not winning, obviously, but I feel like they're feeling more pressure than normal. Like the crowd is like when they're not performing, the energy in the crowd is just not good. And I wonder if the home court can sometimes play against you. That's all. Yeah,
normally, I mean, throughout most of the playoffs, you saw a lot of home teams having decent success. This series has been very much the opposite. I mean, the Raptors won a home game, and that's it. The other 4 games have gone to the road team, which is pretty weird, and falls into our bet the house on the Raptors thing for Game 6.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, or just the garage, whatever you deem appropriate. Did you see the Woj report that David Griffin wants to try to move Anthony Davis before the draft so that he can decide?
I did. I saw. Yeah. So it's going to obviously. I
was titillated.
Get that done. Yeah, it's going to be pre-draft, so they'll obviously draft picks will be involved.
I would assume. I know that people are listening like, wait a minute, guys. He said he wanted to be pre-draft if any picks from this year are included in it, but I've got to think that they will be because 2 of the main teams involved are the Knicks and the Lakers, and that's the 3 and the 4 pick this year.
Yeah, what do we think about those picks? You don't follow college basketball, do you?
Not even one damn game. If my Cal Bears were better, I might pay attention to more college ball, but there are some truly awful college basketball games that happen over the course of the year. I know there's some bad NBA games, but to me, the discrepancy is wild. Like the 30 to 35 seconds of guys just passing the ball around the perimeter and then somebody driving wildly into traffic and flailing one towards the rim. And they never call reach-ins in college. Guys are just being pantsed on every possession and nothing gets called.
I don't understand that whole offensive set. What's the point of just passing it around and having a guy just like, what kind of coaching?
I don't know, Neil. I don't watch college basketball.
I don't get that at all. Like, they don't have – are guys just not –
They're not
coaches that plays any in college, or like
it's the zone.
Athletes just try to out athletic the other guy.
No, it's the zone defense. It's the zone defense. They just, everybody just packs the paint because no one can shoot in college basketball. So it's just this. Everybody's like, okay, wait a minute, maybe somebody's going to biff their spot in the zone, and then the teams that advance are the ones that have the guys that are insane, just athletes beyond athletes beyond athletes, or the teams that can shoot because they can force the teams playing the zone to actually open up a little bit, and then there's driving lanes. But it's just, this is why the NBA keeps moving the three-point line out. It's why college is doing that same type of stuff. You got to have space. You got to have space, or it's ugly basketball. I know that all the old school NBA guys are like, back in my day, blah, 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 knock your head off, whatever. Space creates a more, to me, fun game to watch. It's more fun.
Sure.
It's free and easy, man. Free and breezy. I've got to think, pivoting back to the, I know I'm weird tonight, man. I've got to think coming back to the Pelicans, if they don't, looking at it from their perspective, I'm just trying to size up the valuation on this thing. If they don't make a move before the trade deadline, it really kneecaps their own leverage because it brings down the best possible packages that the Knicks and Lakers could offer, because then the Pelicans can no longer make the choice with those picks. So it would behoove them to get this done quicker, because then they have more options on the table and they can leverage that into a bigger payday. Isn't that right? Wait, am I wrong?
You kind of lost me. But yes, I would think it would. So,
what's circuitous?
Where do you think Davis is going?
Man, if you had asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said nowhere. I would have said they're going to.
Are you serious?
I would have said they're stuck. And now all of a sudden, I think he's going to the Lakers again.
Oh, really? Okay, I was thinking he might go to the Knicks and join with KD.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell Kevin Durant's doing. He may
not go to the Knicks now either. Am I totally out of the
No. I'm trying to come up with this whole the Knicks look like a bad spot to land. Kyrie sounds like he's going to Brooklyn, right? And if KD goes to the Knicks, if KD goes to the Knicks himself, who's he trying to recruit? Is he trying to recruit like Nick Vucevic, Boogie Cousins? No, I'm serious. I'm serious though. Like, who's the other guy that he's bringing with him? Is there anybody else?
Well, I was thinking Davis, but maybe that's too much for them to get them both.
The Knicks young guys are hot garbage. I know that I have a little bit of a Lakers bent, but you're an unbiased observer of this.
Yes.
The Knicks young guys are fetid, right? Like, Kevin Knox did not look good this year.
No, they don't have, except for Mitchell.
Yeah, and he's more of a fantasy guy than a reality guy at this point, because he's awesome defensively, but he has almost no offensive game whatsoever. He's all putbacks, layups, slam-a-jamma, whatever on the inside, which is great when they're playing this like, we don't care if we're winning basketball game. But if KD comes and they load up on superstars, Mitchell Robinson ain't playing now that much. He's not going to be the starting center on a team trying to make a championship run in his second year, maybe a little bit down the line. That's
why I thought he might get moved.
Yeah,
with a bit. Yeah. So
I'd rather have Brandon Ingram if we know that he's healthy. Obviously, the DVT stuff comes into play, but to me, Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball are both each better than any player the Knicks could offer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So to me, suddenly I'm like, I think it might be the Lakers. I think they'll just sell the house at this point.
And they'll do LeBron, AD, and see what happens, huh?
Yeah, and then they could sign a max free agent because AD wouldn't go towards their cap. He'd go towards their cap.
Who do you think they would get, though?
I think you're probably looking at
you think Butler's going to go?
Yeah, I think it would be either Jimmy Butler, or if Kemba turns down his supermax in Charlotte, I think you're looking. You probably need a point guard if you trade Lonzo.
What about Mr. Chris Paul?
Oh my God! Just kill me. I cannot stand Chris Paul, and he's going to end up. I would have come to terms with it if the Lakers got 26-year-old Chris Paul a decade ago. But if the Lakers take the 100 and something, 120, there are $120 million left on his idiotic extension. For a dude who's going to play maybe 55 games a year.
He's got 2 years of horrible contract.
Yeah,
I don't know
please,
if he's got 3 more years left. Yeah.
Please, God, no. Please, Lord, do not bring in Chris Paul. I mean, if I'm Houston, I'm like giving him away for pennies on the dollar. But yeah, please, Lord, no. If the Lakers got him for nothing, I don't care about their salary situation. It's not my money. But presumably they'd have to trade something, and I don't really want them doing that as a Laker fan. I think they're going for somebody who can then space the floor a little bit, because they've got AD hanging out everywhere, LeBron who can do everything. You need shooters. You need guys who can knock down shots and play a little defense. Obviously, AD kind of helps with that a little bit. I'm getting ahead of myself. In looking at the things, Kyrie sounds like he's leaving Boston, which makes me think they're not going to do everything to get Anthony Davis. New York's package is kind of clunky. The Clippers, I've heard, as in the mix, but I don't know that their package is as good as what the Lakers can offer, or if they'd want to, because they're sort of looking at max free agents to come in. And that's the Kevin Durant wild card. I think there's a chance he might end up with the Clippers.
Oh, wow. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, I'm going tinfoil hat here.
No. I think
mid-pod.
That makes perfect sense. Los Angeles, New York, right? One of those two cities.
Mm-hmm. And they're better. They're a far better franchise. They've got better assets. They've got better young pieces. They've got better veterans. They're better run. I mean, the Clippers,
yes.
Listen, as a Laker fan, I don't want to come on here and say nice things about the Clips, but they're better than the Knicks in basically every respect.
Oh, yeah. They've got a solid foundation. They get him, they're obviously in the championship contention all of a sudden, right?
And it would be KD's team. He'd come in and he'd have the team. It's not like, they traded all of their other superstars.
right.
One after the other. They traded the stars that they got when they traded the superstars. They cleaned everything out, aside from just like gutsy role players who played their asses off this year. I'm sure they'd love to have the best scorer in the NBA come join them. That would just be fine. Anyway.
Think they'd rather have KD over Kawhi?
I think I'd rather have Kawhi, but I don't think he's leaving Toronto.
Oh, really? You think it's the done deal?
I think he's signing the short-term thing.
Okay, the one-on-one, what people were talking about, yeah.
Because they can run it back, too. They basically can throw that same roster out there, and then Lowry's stuff comes off the books, and then Gasol's stuff comes off the books. They've got, like, a lot of money tied up for about one more year, and then their salary just evaporates after that. So if you're Kawhi, you're like, screw it. I got all these guys. Let's try it again. We made the finals. We're, a game away from winning them as of right now. Why not try it again? Best team in the East, at the very least. Maybe the best team in the NBA. And then when everybody goes their separate ways, that's when he can set off. He can venture forth to some other place if he wants. To me, the numbers make a lot of sense, just from like a team building standpoint, from a making money standpoint, all that stuff. Anyway, that's probably enough on free agents. I don't know. We're just guessing. I'm really excited. It's 19 days away. Free agency is going to be awesome this year.
It is. There's a lot of great players and a lot of. This is the first year where we feel like next year we have no idea who's the best team in the league, right?
Oh, not a clue.
Not a clue.
KD's not staying with the Warriors, right?
KD's not staying.
No.
They may even lose another guy. We don't know, right? There's a chance Thompson goes down to the Lakers.
I don't think he will. I think he's staying.
I think so.
Yeah, he and Steph, man, they're not parting ways. They're so close. They're not.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, they've got the money for their main three guys.
I can see Draymond leaving though.
That would be amazing. That would catch me with my pants down for sure.
Really, I just think there's a lot of tension between him and the coaching staff and the management.
Can you imagine if you put him with some coaching staff that didn't know his tendencies, though? Oh my God, someone would get killed.
Oh my! Well, it'd be like Cousins 2.0, but I guess Cousins is.
Although for Cousins got easier to handle when he got out of Sacramento, because that franchise did him wrong so many times that it was like, oh, put me with someone new, and everybody's just lollipops and rainbows from this point forward. Thank God I'm not with these guys anymore. Let's move on to the post-mortem stuff.
Okay.
Well, the original order of business today was the Utah Jazz. They got pushed down the list a little bit, but we'll get to them now. We have to. We should. We want to, right? I mean, we want to talk about the Utah Jazz. They were interesting this last year. It's not like, yesterday I had the Thunder rock that one solo, and That was an easy one. Utah has at least a little something going on, right?
You know what? I don't know. I don't know their contracts. That's actually a good point. I'm just looking at their fantasy team, and it was pretty rich last year across the starting five. And they had some interesting pieces off the bench that may get bigger roles next year. What do we know about these players? Are they all going to be around, you think?
Well, let's see. Here's what I've got in front of me, and we'll see if this is. Ricky Rubio is off the books. His $15 million is done, and they probably will not bring him back. So that's one off the books.
Right.
Thabo Sefolosha and Epe Udoh are both off the books as well. So their salary number came down by about $20 million season over season. So there's a little something there. I believe Derek Favors and Kyle Korver have non-guaranteed contracts. I don't know if that, and I admit I probably should have looked a little bit closer to find out exactly, if they waived him, would something come off the books there? I don't know. I mean, Kyle Korver feels like your prototypical Utah Jazz player, and then Derek Favors has actually been, not a bargain at $17 million a year, but he's actually been better than people realized for this team. So from a salary cap standpoint, I don't know. I get the feeling that this is a team that kind of wants to run it back, but with a different point guard, and they can do that.
Yeah, Derek Favors is fascinating because I think on most rosters he would not get the minutes he's getting here. He's a four that can't really stretch the floor, which is almost like becoming a dinosaur. But yet he works on this team so well, and he does a lot of. The team's better when he's on the court. So, I mean, he's in a great position. The only thing that obviously hurts him is his free throw percentage. So I'm a little hesitant to ever draft him because he can take a dent in that. Other than that, though, I do like him as a reality and fantasy player for next year as a solid late round pick. Yeah,
let's work our way down the chart here. The best.
I'm kind of getting.
No, it's fine. I have lots of thoughts on Derek Favors. I actually really like him, and he's someone that you've been able to get at a pretty steep bargain as well. So we'll get to that too. The top fantasy player on this team, and it wasn't close, was Rudy Gobert, who I don't want to say like not the typical bounce back, but he's had these years where he's missed significant time. It's basically been every other season, which, of course, is, if you believe in consistency or patterns, that would be a reason to be a little bit nervous about Gobert, because over his last, I guess it would be 5 seasons now, 82, 61, 81, 56, 81 games played, and this was one of his best. He was number 15 in 9-cat, 2.3 blocks a game. His free throw percentage was terrible, but he was a 67% shooter overall from the field, 16 and 13, 2 assists, almost a steal a game. He's a very safe center to have unless you think he's going to go through a horrible injury season again.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only issue. Like I tend to go safe in my first few rounds. So, and I love him. I mean, despite the free throw percentage, obviously that hurts. If he gets that up, Dan, he could be a first round value. It's amazing how good he is and everything else.
But will he, though? Do you think he can?
I don't know. I've seen, there have been streaks. Like I think I've seen like a few games in a row where he'll knock down a bunch, and then he'll kind of flatten back out again. So preseason is obviously way too small of a sample to see if he's improved at all.
I don't think he will. I'm not a believer. I mean,
okay, yeah. It's been too long. But these can change, right? We've seen big men like develop. Well,
yeah,
it's possible.
I don't like his free throw stroke. Everything feels a little bit cockeyed, like his limbs are too long for him to get all the pieces in the right place. He looks like a 60-something% foul shooter. And even though he was a very easy second-round value, he's a second-round value that you kind of have to pair with someone else. You need to put him with a Dame or a Steph or a Harden or someone that's going to dump in a high volume, high percentage. Because the thing with Gobert is, obviously, he has a lot of really, really impressive stats. His field goal percent is among the best in the league in terms of positive value. Rebounding, huge. Blocks, huge. Good steals for a center. But 6.4 free throws per game. He was not just inching his way to the foul line. I mean, we mentioned it a moment ago, and we'll get to Derek Favors again shortly. He, at least at 68%, he was only taking 3 a game. So that's actually a pretty easy number to balance out. 4.1 out of 6.4. I mean, 2 and change missed free throws every game. That's hard to make up for. But I mean, I guess we're splitting hairs a little bit, right? We're still talking about the number 15 guy in fantasy.
Yeah, 23 overall or per game in ACAT, 16 in total because of all the games he played. Yeah, he's someone I tend to avoid the risk in the beginning, and I'm a little worried that he can't get much higher. Like you're probably right with the free throw percentage, so I may not be having him.
Put your foot down, Neil. None of this may crap. Are you drafting him or not? Not letting you getting away with hemming and hawing today.
I am probably going to avoid him. I think he's going to be a little slightly.
Me too.
I think he's going to be valued at his ceiling.
Yeah, me too.
So that's probably why I'll avoid him.
I'm just being an ass. I'm with you on that one. I'm probably not drafting Gobert. I mean, obviously his fantasy stat set is interesting. There's a lot of big time positives, but I'm totally with you on that. You and I have talked many times on this pod about how we try to avoid guys that put that big dent into one of the percentages, and he does. There's no way around it, and it's not changing. So even though a lot of the other stuff is really good, I'd almost rather have a guy ranked like 3 slots lower that's not crushing you in one of the percentages. And I love what he's 6 out of 9 from the field every single ball game. That's a big deal for your field goal percent. But there are a lot of guys that can sink that, and one guy's not going to fix it. Whereas, at least my take on the percentages is, if you have one really bad free throw shooter, it takes multiple good ones to fix it. If you have one really good field goal percentage guys, one really bad one can knock that out all by himself. So to me, because the free throws are so much more rare in terms of just total quantity of them, having one bad one is almost too much to bear. But let's jump over Donovan Mitchell then, because we'll go straight to Derek Favors. I'm less sickened by his free throw number because the volume is so much lower. 68% is not good. It's also not atrocious. It's not like he's going, 1 for 3 like Hassan Whiteside. He's 2 for 3. He's missing 1 free throw per game. That's pretty easy to make up for.
Yeah, his volume is much lower, right? Gobert's like 6.5 a game or 6.3. So yes, you're right. I don't think he's going to be someone you have to like punt the category or worry about too much to make up. You can find it elsewhere. So I agree with you on Favors. Are you worried at all, though, the team, let's say Rubio's no longer there. Do you think that might change at all, how Favors has looked, like the rotation or anything like that?
I have no reason to think it will. I mean, Favors is only getting 23 minutes a game. So, I mean, okay, so maybe I should step back one pace and say, if someone's offering me Gobert or Favors, I'm obviously going to take Rudy Gobert. Our discussion here isn't necessarily about which of these guys we like more. It's which we like more in terms of value. And Gobert is going to cost you probably a mid-second round pick, whereas, last year Derek Favors was getting drafted in the second to last round. He was an afterthought. And then he ended up at number 77 in 9-cat, obviously not as valuable in 8. Played 76 games despite throughout his career having miscellaneous injury stuff. And a lot of his missed games were when the Jazz were kind of locked into their 4-5 battle. He missed, I think, 5 of his games. 5 of the 6 games he missed this year came in the last 2 weeks, which is honestly not that big of a deal, even in head-to-head, because a lot of leagues ended before he missed those games. So in terms of value, I like Derek Favors. I can't really see him getting much lower than 23 minutes a game. Can you? I mean, in a perfect world for him, what if Gobert has another year where he misses some time? Rudy is a very large man with tendons. those tendons are hanging on by a thread all the time. Favors played 28 minutes the previous year. So there's actually a little bit, his ceiling is higher, not than Gobert, but just higher than he showed this last year.
Yeah, exactly. He was 88 on a per game basis in ACAT, and the 23 minutes is probably his low, his ebb, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
I would think so too. I just worry about his ability to fit in the modern NBA, but it seems like he fits there just fine.
Yeah,
so.
the wacky Utah Jazz, they sort of do what they do.
Yeah.
Jay Crowder takes the other 20 some odd power forward minutes, so they have their Twin Towers time. They have where Favors is basically playing all the backup center minutes, and Gobert played 32 minutes a game, so 16 of his minutes at the big man spot, another 7 or 8 power forward. right? I mean, did anybody else play center minutes for this team last year? Not really.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so either, yeah.
So there's those 16 minutes a game that'll almost always be there. He didn't play that many power forward minutes. He started, right? Didn't he start at power forward for stretches and then didn't? There was a lot of matchup stuff going on with Quinn Cook. By the way, does any NBA coach look more strung out than Quinn Cook?
I mean, Quinn Snyder.
Or Quinn Snyder, yeah. Quinn Cook is on the Warriors. You're right. I
yes,
got my Quinn. This is like a Wheel of Fortune category.
Quinn Snyder looks like he's never slept.
Yeah, the poor man.
Every game he's coaching, it's like he didn't sleep the night before. I don't know. He looks like he's had like 6 coffees, and he's just like anyway.
Yeah, his eyes are sunken with the stresses of many years of coaching an NBA franchise. That's a rough go, man. And by all accounts, he's a really good head coach because he's taken kind of a weird mishmash lineup and he's turned him into pretty decent numbers defensively. If Derek Favors slips into the hundreds again, he's an easy number 2 or number 3 center pick at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly. I would wait probably to around 100. He's going to be valued so low, I think, coming this year with the low minutes this past year. And he's a guy a lot of people probably don't think much of because he's certainly not going to help you in 2 categories. But overall, he's pretty strong.
He's I had a couple of kind of stupid drops this year. I lamented one of them on yesterday's pod was Jeremy Grant, who I picked up in 3 places when it looked like he was going to pick up big-time minutes, and then dropped him in 2 of those 3 teams because I was like, oh, this guy's decent, but he's like top 100. I can find that somewhere else. Let's go have some fun with my open roster slots. And then he turned out to just be like a 75 guy the entire way through. And I did the same thing with Derek Favors in one spot. I think I need to learn to trust my plodding power forward center types a little bit more than I have in the past. I am confident, Neil, and I don't know if you are as well. I think Derek Favors slips in drafts. I don't think people see this 77 from last year and say, oh, well, I should draft him at 77. I think there's a lot of, and rightfully so. I don't know that this is necessarily a bad strategy. Feel free to yell at me on either side of this thing. People start to do upside chasing at that point, 75, 85, 95, whatever. Derek Favors is not an upside chase kind of guy. He's a very safe center that you can just sort of plug and chug, but I do think there's a decent market for that, and I also think that he probably does slide down to around 100. Do you think he drops that far? I
think he's outside the top 100 for sure.
Awesome. I'm happy to hear you say that because I'm going to set myself up to draft him everywhere.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, no, I think, well, he was 70th overall or per total value in ACAT, and 88th per game. But
57, by the way, 57 in 9CAT.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, his turnovers were
low.
Yeah, very low. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, I know. I'm here to help. Tip of the cap to you. Low. Combined steals and blocks of 2.1. I love it when that number's up and over 2 combined. He was solid. He was solid. He was a far better value this year than a lot of these Jazz. Almost all of the Jazz underachieved relative to their ADP, despite having a number of guys that were actually decent fantasy values.
Well, except for Adrian Benjamin's favorite player.
Yes, he was a bit of a... No, that's what I was saying. Most of these guys actually underperformed.
Oh, undervalued. I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell underperformed his ADP. Joe Ingles underperformed his ADP. Ricky Rubio, who, that was like the easiest call on planet Earth that he would underperform. And then he underperformed. We can jump back to Donovan Mitchell now since we knocked out the big guys. Donovan Mitchell. No, I don't want to say he's not really a polarizing figure. I don't like the arguments about him were seemingly pretty well-intentioned. I know you and Adrian disagreed on him. I disagreed with Adrian on him a little bit. You and I were more in the same camp of what stat is he going to fix to get to that next level? Is this the offseason where he fixes one of the stats? Because it's going to have to be, I would think, far more assists or a far better field goal percent. Those are the only 2 things I'm looking at and thinking that's where he makes his leap.
Yeah, it's got to be the field goal percent because he's never going to come down on the shooting volume, right?
Don't think so.
Yeah, and so if he doesn't change that, he's going to be stuck in the 30s and 40s again. Don't you think?
Can he?
I assume he's going to get a little bit better.
A little bit, right? There should be
like maybe 43%.
You know what I'm looking at as a way to where he could maybe see incremental boost would be if he could. I mean, he took 5 free throws a game. If he could go from 80.5% to 82 or 83, that's a way that he could go from because he was number 51 in 9-cat. What was he in 8-cat this year?
44 in a per game, 36 over a total. Yeah. He played almost every game, which is impressive.
Yeah, durable. One of the 5 games he missed was the last game of the year where they just rested everybody as well. So basically missed 4 games. Yeah, I mean, 51 in 9-cat, I could see him getting to 40 to 45 range. But so does this make him a post-hype guy, or do you think he still ends up going too high just because he scored 24 points a game? Those high-scoring guys, they ended up getting drafted pretty early.
I don't see him losing too much value in hype. I think he's going to be going too early again next year.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll see where his ranking is, but I can't imagine. I wouldn't take him until the 4th round. I can't see him lasting that long.
No, he's not going to last that long. Someone's going to take him, and I would love to get him in the mid to late 40s. I think he'll be a pretty easy value at that point.
Right.
But I don't think he drops that far either. What about Joltin' Joe? That's baseball. Smoking Joe.
Smoking Joe had a great second half of the season.
He really did. Did. So which Smoking Joe do we get next year?
I think the second half. From what I understand, he had some off-court stuff that was not really publicized, like some family issues. So,
yeah, I know he's dealing with a kid who had some developmental stuff, which I know the Jazz have kind of wrapped themselves around, which is very cool. I don't know if that was what was impacting him. If it was, seems totally reasonable for it to do so. But yeah, I mean, he ended the year in 9-cat at number 97, but he really did just sort of punch along after the All-Star break. I mean, what are we looking at there? The last 30 games of the year, we can call it. I think Joe Ingles' last 30 games was 75. It was that 75 range instead of 125 the first half of the season. It still feels to me like with Donovan Mitchell there taking every shot known to man that I don't know how much higher Ingles could go than around 70 to 75 range.
Wait, next year you think?
Yeah, next year. He's probably going to get drafted in that 60 to 75 neighborhood. Can he get any higher than that?
Oh, I think so. I mean, he finished. I think he can finish around in the 50s in 8 category leagues. No.
Oh, 8. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Well, what was he after the All-Star break in 8-cat? He was next.
I think he was in the 30s.
Because his turnovers were kind of high, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let me double check on it.
I think it's 2.5. Yeah, so his turnovers were high.
Yeah, he was in the mid 50s after the All-Star break, so he was pretty damn good with 2.5 turnovers a game. He was in the 70s in 9-cat because those TOs were kind of a little bit of a drag. Last 30 games of the year, by the way, is what I'm looking up right now. I have no idea where I think he gets drafted next season. Do you remember where he got drafted for you this season?
Oh, in my league, yes, because I took him.
Oh, where'd you take him?
I took him probably in the 60s.
How many? Wait, you must have multiple leagues going, right? What about ones where you didn't get him? Where did he go when you didn't get him?
I don't remember. Maybe I'm probably 6th or 7th round.
Yeah, I'm looking at one here. 12-team league. He went at 59. In a league where I didn't take him, and another one he was kept, so that one's not super helpful for me. So yeah, he was going around 60, it looks like. So your number is kind of in parallel with it, so by all accounts, he was an underachiever. So he probably doesn't go around 60 again, right? You figure next year he's a guy that drops a little bit. He probably goes in the 75 to 90 window, and at that point, I think you're getting a really nice deal on him.
Yeah, exactly. If I could get him in the 7th round, that'd be fantastic.
So he does. Okay, this is a total misuse of the nomer. It's a misnomer to call him a post-hype guy because he was never a full hype guy. He's Smoking Joe Ingles, for goodness sake. He's, better known for his stogies and place kicking. This is, by the way, all a reference to the actor on The Replacements. It's not Joe Ingles. He can't be a post-hype guy if you were never a hype guy, but he is a guy that went a little higher this year and then underperformed and could go a little bit lower next year. So he's a guy where the value might exist. And it's funny, too, and I don't care much about Ricky Rubio and Jay Crowder. I don't think we need to talk about those guys unless Rubio ends up in some really interesting spot, and then we can talk about him next month after free agents do their business. The four guys that I think we should really just focus on, that we've broken down now, let's play a little up or down game with them. Ingles, Favors, Mitchell, Gobert, not in any particular order. For me, Neil, I'll just go first so you don't feel like I'm putting you on the spot. I think Rudy Gobert will be overvalued. I think Donovan Mitchell will be overvalued. I think Derek Favors and Joe Ingles will be undervalued. And it's kind of weird for that to be my assessment because it doesn't match up with how they performed this year. Gobert and Mitchell, one of them overperformed, the other one underperformed, and I still think they're both going to be overvalued. Favors and Ingles, one over and one underperformed, and I think they're both going to be undervalued. It doesn't make any sense, but that's just the gut feeling I have at this point.
I can't disagree.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
But I am interested to see who the point guard is because that could change things a bit.
Do we have any rumors swirling about who they're looking at so far? They don't have a ton of money to spend on it, but I'm thinking they probably want someone who can shoot.
Yeah, they probably want someone who can shoot. Rubio they don't need a point guard passing point, like a great passing point guard anymore with the way they run their offense. So
no.
I think Conley, I thought, but then this is not going to happen, right? Because they can't afford him, can they?
I don't know what they would. I don't know what they could offer in this offseason to go get him. It's not like they're loaded up on young assets out there.
What? You knocking off Grayson Allen?
Yeah, he can just go down to Memphis and clean people's clocks. He's a lovely young man. I don't know. I mean, like Patrick Beverley kind of fits the mold of someone that might fit in with a defense first team, but I can't imagine the Clippers are going to let him get away. But I mean, because he's a guy whose only shot basically is the 3-pointer, and then he loves to torture people on defense. That goes well with the Gobert on the interior. Ingles, good defender. Donovan Mitchell is effectively the point guard. I guess the argument for Mitchell is that if Rubio's not there anymore, he and Joe Ingles are both going to be tasked with running probably all of the offense, and they go get a point guard that can shoot, and they don't worry about one that can pass all that well. But we shall see. We shall see. And that's, I mean, you and I agree on a lot of things, which is not the best radio, but at the same time, we both have kind of a similar assessment of how we look at guys. Where can they, what real life changes can they make to impact their fantasy stat set? What are the things that could change? Because defensively, guys sort of are who they are in general. The things we're looking at are minutes, percentages, stuff like that. And then in terms of this Utah team, overvalued, undervalued, namesake, stuff like that. And I think that's where we sit going into next year. And that's all I've got on the Jazz. You got anything else with this bunch? Did you want to talk about Jay Crowder at all? Because I don't really.
No. I mean, Royce O'Neal, I'm curious to see if he gets a boost in minutes for deeper leagues next year. I did like him.
Yeah, he was interesting in those brief stretches where they had 3 point guards hurt at the same time.
Yeah, so I wonder if he does get any more usage next year. So
you remember? I'm not exaggerating there. That was when Ricky Rubio, Raul Neto, and who the hell am I forgetting? Dante Exum were all hurt at the same time, and they were like, "Royce O'Neal, you're the point guard now," and he's like, "What? I'm 6'8".
Yeah, I mean, he did average 21 minutes. I know his stat set wasn't very good, but I think he's
6'7".
He's someone who's going to get better as a player. So I think his stat set will come up commensurately with that, and he's kind of solid across the board. We'll see if he. I'm thinking of more obviously like 16-team leagues or something like that. So.
Yeah, they need somebody a little bit more established that can hit the outside shot in that point guard spot. They need someone that can help spread the floor because when they're running a Gobert Favors thing, that's not spreading any floor. And I would assume they need a point guard who's just, with Rubio he just can't shoot. He shot 40% this year, and that was by all accounts one of his best seasons of his career. In fact, it's one of only 3 times he's shot above 40% over his entire career. And that'll about do it. So coming up the rest of the week here on Fantasy NBA Today, tomorrow I'll be talking with Brandon Marcus about the Boston Celtics. And we'll see how much Lakers schadenfreude comes out on my side and how much Brandon tortures me as a fan of the Clippers, who've been much more successful. We broke them down last week. He had his time in the sun. Neil, you've got the Sixers on Thursday. That should be one that's going to be almost impossible to break down, because who the hell knows who's going to be on that team next year?
That'll be fun. We can talk about the past. That'll be fun.
Yeah, that's true. You talk about the past. Adrian and Coach have the Rockets on Friday. That's the rest of the week here on Fantasy NBA Today. The finals continue. Game 6 back at Oracle in roughly 14 days. So set your calendar, because I honestly don't know when that is. That a game on Thursday? Is that
it
what
is?
It is.
3 days, Thursday, and then maybe again Sunday. We'll see.
Holy hell. I finally got used to the 3-day thing, and then they did the 2-day thing in Oracle, and it threw me all off. I thought that game was, I knew in my mind it was on Friday, but I knew it was too close to the previous one, so I almost just totally missed it. This one I actually paid attention to. This one was, I was ready for it. The little bird inside my head was like, it's on Monday, it's in the week, you're going to be home, you have to pay attention to this thing. Fun one. Again, it continues. Neil Rochlani, my good sir, I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dan.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.